The gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Meehan, Chairman of the Terrorism Subcommittee, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me thank both of the panelists for your distinguished service to our country. I appreciate that when you come here, you get the tough questions, but I also appreciate the tremendous service that you perform each and every day on behalf of our nation. But I am going to ask as well some questions that I know have been of great importance to me. Let me start with you first, Mr. Olsen. I want to ask you, you know, because you're at the NCTC every day, you see the global information. Do you believe that Boko Haram should be designated a foreign terrorist organization?
We certainly have seen, Congressman, the rise of Boko Haram as a significant threat in Nigeria over the last couple years, and in particular a dramatic rise in the amount of violence that that group has caused in Nigeria, particularly over the last year. If you recall, last August, the attack on the UN headquarters in Abuja.
I'm aware. We know. We can go. The record reflects. I just want to know your opinion. Do you believe it should be a foreign terrorist organization?
That's a question. The question of whether to designate that group. That's
yes.
That is within the province of the Department of State to make that decision.
I'm aware that it's the Department of State, but what do you believe? Because I'm having trouble getting an answer from the Department of State.
Our role is to provide the intelligence on that group to the ultimate policy decision about whether to designate. From the pure perspective of the definition of terrorism and whether that group engages in terrorism, the answer is it does. It engages in acts of terrorism in Nigeria and has.
Well, let me take a second and then go through. Let me just ask, Madam Secretary, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think I would concur with the Director and all that he has said, and that is a policy decision ultimately for the State Department.
Well, let me go through, because I'm not getting the ability for the State Department to make a decision. The facts, we are attorneys and we talk about the criteria, the elements. Are they a foreign organization? Question one, that is clear. Do they engage in terrorist activity? Without a question. I think we could stipulate both of those. Really, the third question is the organization's terrorist activity a threat to the security of the United States nationals or national security of the United States, either their foreign relations or their economic interests? Now, Mr. Olsen, you've testified here today that Boko Haram remains focused on local and regional attack plotting, including Western interests in Nigeria. You further testified that Boko Haram is primarily focused on plotting against attacks in Nigeria, but in April, a spokesman for the group publicly threatened to find a way to attack a U.S.-based news outlet if its coverage of Islam did not change. According to my interpretation of your testimony and each of those elements, it meets all the criteria of designation for a foreign terrorist organization. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that the acts of that group meet those criteria in terms of its activities, and the intelligence supports that. Ultimately, and as you may know, sir, that a number of the members of that group have been designated as terrorists, and ultimately the decision of whether to designate the group is a policy call.
But why, Madam Secretary, why would we not do that? Because I think you appreciate, as I do, the ability to have enhanced activities for investigation on our part. And let me suggest that there is testimony as well. I think most significantly, the letter from the Department of Justice requesting that this be done. One of your, colleague agencies, from Deputy Attorney General Monaco, specifically requesting. I have met with the CIA, and I will represent to you their genuine concern and hope that this would be accomplished. And General Ham himself in the African Command has talked himself about the concern that AQIM and others are collaborating with the Al-Qaeda is collaborating with Boko Haram. So given all of those facts, why would the State Department not designate them as a foreign terrorist organization, if you have an opinion?
Representative, I think that's a question addressed to the State Department.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I think the facts speak for themselves on that. I'm fearful, and here, let me just go for the record. My concern is we took the same stance with TTP. We took the same stance with AQAP after We did not designate them until after they attempted to carry out acts of terrorism within the United States. So I'm very concerned about this issue. Madam Secretary, let me just ask one quick sort of overarching question. Those visa overstays here in the United States, are we doing enough to try to deal with the issue of visa overstays, or can we do more, or are we concerned about that?
We have gone back and revetted the backlog. We are current with visas coming in. Doesn't mean that there aren't overstays in the country that are problematic, and we should always be concerned about that. We are open to ideas or suggestions on other things we could do, but I think from a departmental standpoint, in the last 13 months, 12, 13 months, quite a bit has been done from a security standpoint to look at those visa overstays.
Well, thank you. And thank you again. My time has expired, but I'm tremendously grateful for your service. Thank you.
Time, gentlemen, expired. Madam